So what do you think? How good is weird as a line of attack against this Trumpian force? Hi, I'm Andy Schmuckler, a guy with an integrated picture of the whole saga of humankind and the nature of the forces that have made our lot difficult on this planet since we stepped onto the threshold of civilization and the nature of the challenges we need to meet. But these days, uh, there's so much happening in the immediate drama in the United States about whether we're going to stay a democracy or hand power over to a would-be fascist dictator and his fascistic political party. And one of the issues that has arisen in my mind as an issue, actually, is the word weird being utilized by the democratic world, the pro-democracy world, and particularly the Kamala Harris presidential campaign, as a line of attack against Trump and his running mate, for example, with his problems with cat ladies and couches, and they're saying these guys are weird. My initial reaction was, well, I heard it from Governor Walz from Minnesota, and out of his mouth, I kind of liked it. These guys are weird. But then I saw that it was being used by, as adopted as a major theme, at least for the time being. And I started wondering, is that really where we want to go with the contrast that needs to be made? And from my point of view, the answer is, well, with my vocation being that of trying to be a truth teller, that doesn't hit the nail on the head. The problem with these guys is not at the heart of it that they're weird. The problem is much darker than that. Weird isn't necessarily all that dark. I mean, we can talk about eccentric people or weird. And my kids, when they were, early adolescents, they'd say, "Oh, Dad, you're weird." I didn't mind being called weird. So when you've got something like what the Trump represents, which is consistently destructive, there's a word that's an ancient word that has fallen into disfavor in liberal circles, but really does pertain to something which I think can be shown to exist in the world, a coherent force that consistently works to make the human world worse. That's my definition of evil. If you look at the things that are weird about the Trump gang, they're all things that are basically befoul our world or make it more broken. So when you just call them weird, you're not capturing that, and that's the essential truth of the matter. Not something that's been true about the political struggle between our two parties through American history in general, but at this special time when the Republican Party has been changed from a normal American party into a consistently destructive American party, well, you've got a coherent force that's consistently working to make things more broken. And as a truth teller, I would like the American people to see them that way. But I've run for a political office. I was a Democratic nominee for Congress here in Virginia's 6th District in 2012, running on the slogan, "Truth for a Change." And I can testify that when it comes to the motivations that move people politically, one way or another, the issue of the truth is not as all that powerful as I wish it were. People are motivated by a lot of very subtle things. So even though my first reaction was, weird does not capture the essence of what's going on over there on the in conservative America, what the Republican Party has become. But then I realized that what we're trying to do, what the Democrats are trying to do, what the Kamala Harris campaign is trying to do, is win an election. So, truth, hitting the nail on the head or not, the question is this going to be a good way to win that election? And then I did see an important value to the weird thing. Namely, it appeals to people to find the Trump force somehow over the line, not okay, and basically also not normal. And that's an important thing. When I heard the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, who I would, if I were up to me to make the choice of her VP, I would go with Walz. I've waltzed around a few other options, particularly Josh Shapiro. But I think I would go with Walz because, well, I come from Minnesota. I mean, it's been a long time, but I go back for high school reunions, and I'm aware of the kind of culture that this guy grew up out of Nebraska into Minnesota. And this guy, Walz, has got a lot of real important virtues, but one of the main ones is that he conveys the idea of normal, that people can be comfortable with him. Now, back in 2020, when I got onto the Biden train, I had not been for him up until it became clear that it was going to be, that Biden was the only option that we had that had what looked like a good chance of beating Trump. And one of the things I thought, and I don't think I was the only one thinking this, he was a white, straight man of mature years. He was normal in terms of what Americans think of as where do we look for our presidents. And, you know, compared to Bernie Sanders, of whom various things might be said, like democratic socialist. Oh, and Biden was a more or less centrist, moderate Democrat. So people could vote for him thinking, you know, that's the kind of America we're used to having. And he was a decent guy, too. So I think that was important for winning that election. Being normal means that a lot of people will be comfortable voting for you. Now, Kamala Harris is kind of different in a number of ways, and is in danger of being characterized as weird, as abnormal. So Tim Walz, you just look at his face, you listen to him talk, there's the Midwest, there's a basic good sense, there's a guy who coached a football team to a championship, and the list goes on. I have a classmate who's been involved in DFL, Democratic Farmer Labor Politics, for a very long time. And I asked him, what did he think about Walz? And he came back with, yeah, and he had a whole list of important virtues that he had. But what I see when I hear him talk is this guy is everything that Kamala isn't, that makes her vulnerable to being characterized as, don't feel comfortable with the idea of this person representing our country. She's a woman. We've never done that. Would have if it hadn't been for James Comey. I never understood the stupidity or whatever of what he did. But anyway, Hillary lost. She's a woman of color. And not only that, but she's a person who comes from a culture, not like a small town Nebraska of 400 people like Walz. not like a Midwestern agricultural rural background, but an Indian culture, which she celebrated, explaining what was meant by you didn't just fall out of a coconut tree. Well, this Kamala Harris group has done a wonderful job of grabbing hold of these kinds of memes and making her exciting, not strange. But that is one of her vulnerabilities that the Republicans uh, are sure to try to make use of. She's not one of us. Her mother comes from India. Her father is black. He comes from Jamaica. A lot of Americans will find the idea of such a person being the president of the United States kind of weird. So I think this campaign with weird can be useful, first of all, in conjunction with the Kamala Harris grabbing of the mean. Kamala is brat and fall out of a coconut tree, and I love Venn diagrams. That, you could easily say, what kind of weird person loves Venn diagrams? But in her, it's a meme that we can grab and celebrate. She's a real human being. She is herself. She is genuine. And she cares about the things that we care about. And you get by to the extent to which you can celebrate the ways in which she is her own unique self. But meanwhile, to use the word weird, to launch a preemptive strike on the people who are going to try to weirdify Kamala and say they're weird. Not in the sense of, oh, look how cute that is. You didn't just fall out of a coconut tree. No, weird in the sense of, why is this guy trying to make women into sort of baby making machines and impose his will on everybody and all the other things that are weird? And why is Donald Trump talking about Hannibal Lecter? Maybe it's a way of calling attention to the fact that he's weird in the sense that people with dementia get weird. By the way, I'm a couple months older than Trump. It is true that time moves on. But Trump is weird. When he talks about sharks and batteries, man, that's weird. These folks are weird. So it's a preemptive strike. It's defining weird as strange, and you don't want to get close to that. We don't want to have to look at that every day for the next 4 years or beyond, since Trump is saying you're not going to have to vote anymore. No, weird is bad for them. And unique, weird in the eccentric but good sense, is us. On the issues that matter, we're the majority. On Dobbs, we're the majority. On judicial reform, we're the majority. On common sense gun measures, we're the majority. We're the norm of the American electorate in 60, 70, whatever the issue is, percent. We are the norm. They are weird. So at the same time, I see this as a temporary meme. Not that it needs to disappear altogether, but this is at the beginning of the campaign, when the issue is how successful will they be in defining Kamala Harris in a way that's repugnant, unattractive to the American electorate. And I see the weird thing as being a good stroke for that part of the campaign. But I think there should be a time when that becomes more background and some other realities about what these guys are besides weird. More importantly than weird, they are consistently destructive. They are ugly. They are attacking the very foundations of America. And that's worse than weird. So those are my thoughts. And if you're interested in my way of thinking, I encourage you to check me out, like this, and share this link with anybody else that might be interested. But check me out on my YouTube channel, where I've made a lot of videos where bit by bit I'm trying to present a coherent picture, an integrated picture of our situation as a species on this planet that illuminates our crisis here in America, but also is directly tied in with the implications of what our species did unprecedentedly 10,000 years ago by stepping onto the path of civilization, which I define as those societies created by a creature that has, for the first time in the history of life, extricated itself from the niche in which it evolved biologically by inventing its own way of life. That doesn't answer all the questions about how do we deal with the campaign, how much do we use weird. But it does illuminate the actual nature of the battle going on in America today, which is democracy versus fascism. That's the essence of it. And if you look at the whole big picture of the forces that have been battling over what direction human civilization is going to take, you can actually identify forces, two coherent forces. One that works to make the world better, one that works to make the world worse. And you can discern them in a logical, social scientific way, which I do, and you can see me laying that out systematically on my website, abetterhumanstory.org. And it's getting that stuff out before I die that really is my deep motivation. But I'm swept up right now in this battle that we're engaged in, which is part of that overall battle about whether we're going to be able to order our civilization well enough and soon enough to survive on this planet as human civilization for the long haul, or whether we're going to destroy ourselves, which is a genuine possibility. So our immediate battle is to turn back the force of fascism. And I'm delighted to see that liberal America, as I said in my most recent video, has at last found a leader who's a fighter. She's willing to take the battle to them. And I can see that there is thinking around them that has a willingness to press the battle. And the choice of weird, however apt or inept it may be, is encouraging evidence that these are fighters we got now. Kamala Harris is a fighter, and that's what we have needed for a very long time. And if she can make good use of the word weird, or have her deputy, whoever her vice president is, her surrogates, going around talking about the weird, if that is a way of bringing it to the Trumpers in an effective way that lands blows and erodes their support in the American body politic in order to win this election and save American democracy, then I'm all for it.